Now, I will state again that polls in and of themselves are only somewhat meaningful in predicting election results, even more so this far out from the midterms that are in November. But what polls can do is give you a sense of trends, especially when you read them like in the aggregate. And they can also give you a sense of the mood of parts of the country and electorate in a specific moment in time. That is the best way to read polls, honestly. Not as predictions, but really as status checks. So when the New York Times and Siena College poll finds that at this moment in time, just 1% of 18 to 29-year-olds strongly approve of President Biden's job performance so far. 18% somewhat approve, while 94% say they want another candidate to run in 2024. That is a status check that tells the White House that the mood right now, it's frankly pretty grim. And as the Times puts it, what's bugging younger voters most about the leaders of this country and of their party is that, frankly, many of them are 3 times their age. And so many believe that they are out of touch with the issues that young voters say matter most to them. Essentially, it's a statement about younger voters who prefer, in general, the policies that Democrats offer, but who often feel stifled in what essentially is a gerontocracy. Here's what one young voter told NBC's Vaughn Hilliard this past weekend.
He's pretty, clueless and out of touch.
And you guys are registered Democrats?
Yeah.
Would you want somebody else to run in 2024?
Yeah, I thought, my understanding that part of the wager in 2020 was that he was only going to run once, and then he was going to give up power to, I guess, Kamala or whoever, and that doesn't seem to be the case anymore, and it's not a winning strategy, and it looks bad, and it is bad. And someone else needs to run. I'll take anyone else, really.
Joining me now, former Democratic Senator from California, Barbara Boxer, and Cristina Tzintzún Ramirez, president of Next Gen America. Thank you both for being here. And I'm going to start with you, Senator Boxer, because, I have this conversation a lot, even with my kids who are in their 20s, and they say that there is a sense that the Democratic Party is hanging on to a gerontocracy, that it is much, much older people who they generally agree with most of their views, but not all, are hanging on to this sort of institutional old party that doesn't work in the modern politics. So what these 70-something odds, some of whom are bomb, who are terrific, like Nancy Pelosi, you really know what they're doing, but some of whom are behind a step, and sometimes Biden is, they're fighting a culture of people who are Gen X and younger. Look at the ages of the most radical Republicans that we see out there. DeSantis is 43. Hawley's 42. Poor old Madison Cawthorn was just 26. Lauren Boebert's 35. Matt Gaetz is 40. Tom Cotton, 45. Elise Stefanik, 38. Rubio's 51. Ted Cruz is 51. So the Republicans push forward younger, radical people. And the people fighting them are people like Biden, who still think the institutions can work like they did in the 70s and 80s. Your thoughts?
Sure. Well, someone who's fast becoming the Betty White of politics, me.
That's a great reference. Everybody wants to be Betty White. She's amazing.
I want to be. But in any event, this is how I view it. This is how I view it. When you put those pictures up of those right-wing crazies, it says to me right away, it doesn't matter how old you are. You could be dangerous at 80 and you could be dangerous at 40. The point, but I do think there's an important point to this poll, and that is we Democrats, we do have a very good and diverse coalition. It truly is diverse every way you look at it. But in terms of leadership in Congress, it is true, they are getting older. And so I think it's easy to fix that. I think we need to have younger people standing behind the leaders and getting to the podium and making the presentation. Look at the January 6th committee. It's so impressive. People in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Each one has something to offer. So my feeling is we've got to push people forward who are younger and who are good and smart and are caring.
Cristina Tzintzún Ramirez, I want to let you counter. What do you make of it? Because, yes, there are, look, people, they love Liz Warren. There are young people who love Bernie Sanders, who's about as old as Joe Biden, but is it the sense that people are not being allowed to not just stand behind the leaders, but lead? Or is it the issues that younger people want, police reform, more aggressive pushes on voting rights, and that's not happening because the other leaders are sort of old school?
I think it's that young people are voting for Democratic candidates, but they're voting on progressive issues and a progressive agenda. You know, this wasn't a newsflash, this poll, that Biden wasn't the youth vote candidate. He wasn't the youth vote candidate in 2020. That was Bernie Sanders, and he's pretty old. What I saw in the New York Times and the Harvard Youth Voter poll showed us is that 32% of young eligible voters said they plan on showing up this election. That tracks on turnout of the youth voter turnout in 2018 that helped Democrats win back the House and also elect a slew of progressive, diverse candidates that are much younger and backed by young progressives. So you elected Congresswoman AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Katie Porter. This is the largest, most diverse and progressive generational voting bloc in the country right now. And they are just starting to flex their power, and they're demanding the Democratic Party be more responsive to their issues, and they're actually winning. So the message that I see is that elected officials in the headline should really be, don't underestimate or discount the power of a pissed off generation this election.
But, you know, and I hear all that, but Senator Boxer, here's what happens. The AOCs, the more progressive younger candidates get elected, and then they say, we want Build Back Better. We want all of this great stuff. We want a really aggressive voting rights bill. And then Joe Manchin says no. And then Joe Biden says, OK, well, we'll split Build Back Better off and just give Joe Manchin his bridge bill. And that's the way politics works, because the progressive things that would excite young voters can't get through the gerontological Senate.
Let me just say this. The way the Senate works, as you know, it's a supermajority to get anything done. It has nothing to do with age. They could all be in their 30s or their 40s. They still couldn't do it. And I think the panelists we have on here is so right. It's about the issues. Now we're going to have the first national election since January 6th. Think about that. With these hearings, just driving it home to the young voters, to the old voters, to those in the middle. It's the first one since that horrible Roe v. Wade decision. And we've got crazy Republicans telling 10-year-olds they have to have a forced birth if they're raped. So we've seen an uptick in gun violence. We've seen an uptick in voter suppression. So I think it's the issues. And yes, let's get some more younger people out there with the older ones.
Well, as a member of Gen X, we just get skipped all the time. We're just going to go. We'll go to the next generation. We just get skipped. But I'll give you the last word, Ms. Tsinsoon Ramirez. Last word.
Well, I want to say that young voters are actually winning on the issues. That what we need to realize is that if it weren't for young voters, Donald Trump would be president. Mitch McConnell would be a majority leader. We wouldn't have the first African-American woman in the Supreme Court, that we have won investments in climate and historic gun safety legislation. So let's turn out young people this election, because we can send a powerful message to every single one of those elected officials that's trying to take our country backwards, that if they want to cling to the past, they can have it, but the future is going to belong to America's young people.
I absolutely agree. And young voters, listen, the way Republicans did this, they spent 50 years relentlessly voting, losing, voting until they won. You have to vote persistently. Vote like your grandma. That's how you get what you want. Vote like your grandma, because she never stops voting. She's in the church hat. She shows up. She always votes. That's why she gets what she wants ultimately. Former Senator Barbara Boxer, Christina Tsinsoon Ramirez, thank you both very much.